anything could make me happier than the return of 90s hairstyles, it's got to be the return of 90s makeup. So Grace is here to guide us through a modern take, everyone, on our favorite looks from that bygone decade. Because I know, Grace, you're not trying to take us to a place that is going to make us look dated. So why don't you give us a stroll down memory lane? What was the 90s like when it comes to makeup?
Well, honestly, I feel like I know this era way too well. And let's start with foundation. Foundation was really overly matte. It was chalky. It was white. It was pale. When I look back at pictures, I literally gasp and say, oh my goth. And think about J-Lo, but before the glow.
Right.
And, Naomi Campbell. She was even looking really chalky and pasty. And that was an era where supermodels actually did their makeup for runway shows back then. So, that's just kind of how it was.
Can you believe where we've come from? Like, the supermodels of the 90s did their own faces. Now we have 16-year-olds getting professional makeup done for Instagram. Holy moly. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about there was a real sort of vamp vibe happening over the 90s with the dark lipsticks. Let's talk about that.
For sure. There was, the lipsticks were dark and berry, like I said, very goth. Madonna wore it well. It was definitely this deep, rich berry going on paired with a very thin eyebrow.
We got to get into the eyebrows. So just take the Band-Aid off immediately. Are those thin eyebrows coming back? The thin eyebrows that took me 2 years to grow out?
Well, you're lucky, Tracy, because mine never recovered from the 90s. So thank goodness for microblading, because they just never grew back in the places that I wanted it to. And fortunately for all of us, we can still keep our eyebrows. Thank God.
Yeah, I never want to go back there. Yes. I'll never do it again. Okay, so let's talk about how we can even attempt a 90s look without looking dated.
So let's talk about foundation, because that was kind of one of the things that really just was a marker for the 90s. And it was matte. But thank goodness now technology has really changed the way matte foundations look. So you can do a matte foundation with liquid foundation. It doesn't have to be a powder. Mm-hmm. We do have amazing powder foundations as well. And usually they come with a sponge that goes on very matte, but still very creamy. And if you're feeling like it's still a little too matte for your liking, then apply the foundation powder with just a brush. And it'll go on just way more seamlessly and just not as opaque. So that's just a really good tip that I have if you want kind of matte skin but still natural looking.
And creamy is the word. That's what we're looking for, matte but creamy. Okay, let's talk about our eyeshadows. What would we do for 90s eyeshadow?
Okay, so back then in the 90s, there was this very heroin chic grunge look where there was this kind of palish, bluish gray eyeshadow. And Tracy, do you remember there was this vanilla, stark white highlight under the brow that everybody did?
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't matter what skin tone you were, but it was this chalky white thing that went all over the eyes. And we're not doing that anymore, thank goodness. And the tones are still what it is now, very warm, think warm browns. Liners also back in. So I did a straight liner. It's not really a cat eye that goes up, but it's kind of just a little bit more straight. Yeah. And just stick with the just warm browns. I think that's very modern.
To me, that's what I love the best about the 90s. I love those warm browns. So I see that there are some lipsticks here. Okay. So you brought me some lipsticks, and I believe that we are going to get into a little bit of lip liner action. So I'm going to take off the pink that I have on now. Tell me a little bit about the lip colors that are in for the 90s that people are replicating now.
So yeah, you're seeing a resurgence of those chilies and Marrakesh and rusts and just a lot more brown tones. Also the lip liner is back, but it's not this Oreo cookie mouth where it's a really dark lip liner with almost a lightish color in the middle. So you know, just you want to make sure that the colors are just more on the rust tones.
Okay, so I picked 160 Rich Wine for my lip liner, and
Ooh.
for my lipstick, I'm probably not going to get to the lipstick, but I picked the More Berry. So I love the dark colors from the 90s.
Love it.
Guide me through how to do my lip liner. I know you can't see me, honey, but you're a pro.
Okay, Tracy, you also have the most incredible lips. Like, women pay to have lips like yours. So I wouldn't recommend overlining your lips because you already have like these beautiful, luscious lips. So I would just stick kind of like in the natural line of your lip. Don't overdraw, just right where the line meets the skin of your face.
Okay.
And that's where you want to do small strokes and just create an outline around the lip. And then once you're done that, you can kind of fill in the rest of your lip with the lip liner if you want.
And it's feeling nice and dry and matte like the 90s. That makes me happy.
It's also a great way for your lips to stay on, too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay, so
exactly.
I've got it on my lips. They're not completely filled in because
Yes.
I'm going to put a lipstick over top, but ooh, I'm loving this berry color. I'm going to fill them in with lipstick.
Ooh.
Listen, go and get your matte lips, everyone. They've come a long way from the 90s. Gracie, I just want to say a big thank you for supporting Trust 15 with the Black Lives Matter t-shirt. We appreciate you.
Of course.
Thank you, and thank you for taking me back to my favorite era